Hey, what's up? This is Klaus House coming to you from just the TWL B base, where I will be showing people interested in getting into tearing 15 essential burst shots that every tear should know. So we'll start with a few bursts from the outside. This is the what's generally known as the cincher burst. That'll hit both, and usually both will go into the cram, which can be pretty effective for breaking the cram. There's a few different ways to set it up originally, but a solid break that a few different tears use, even if it doesn't kill the tear, it should be useful. The second one is generally referred to as the newbie burst, because it's so obvious in its setup that anyone who is remotely capable of tearing will spot this from a mile away, and it's just not going to be effective in producing a tech or usually even a kill if the enemy sharks are paying attention. But it's a good burst to know anyways. If the sharks aren't paying attention, or the enemy tear is new or not paying attention, it can be an effective burst, but generally not something that you should be using very often or looking to use at all. There's just simply better bursts that you can use. Number 3 is a slightly more effective burst, because usually the enemy tear cannot see you, and it targets the right side, which is the side where the enemy tear usually is when holding cram. So it's not as obvious. It's a better burst shot. It still should not work for anyone good, but it might force a warp or kill a spider, or force a shark to waste a rep. So this is the burst that's not used as often. This is a burst that Cape uses quite a bit, and a few higher level tears, and we'll shoot one up into the mid and then a second one, so we'll actually get 2 bursts up into the cram, which is useful. But you obviously need to be very aware of enemy spiders and lines of sight. And we're now heading into the flag room with the 5th burst. This is arguably the most popular and most effective burst in the game. If you're only going to use one burst, use this one. This will fire 2 into the under. Very good at clearing under, killing 1 to 2 spiders, and also it's extremely effective in that it's very difficult for sharks to rep, because they're usually in the over. So definitely, if you only use one, use that one. This is the 6th burst. This one can be effective if you're in trouble and you're losing. You really want to make sure that you want to count enemy shark reps and make sure that they're not over there and have full of reps for this to be an effective burst. It can be used in an emergency situation or as an offensive tactic. The 7th one is one that Flared showed me that he likes to use, that is a very quiet but very powerful burst that you can actually set up from under there by lining up the middle of your ship to that corner. You want to drift slightly off the bar when you hit this, and this will actually fire 2 under. But what's powerful about this is it'll hit that mid area where you can see Eek just flying around right there. So enemy tears are often there, so that's an excellent and effective burst if you have time to do it, and it's not a common one, so a lot of times enemy tears will not know its pattern or where it's going. So a very solid burst. You want to set it up from here though, not from the top, usually, because there will be under spiders firing. So if you're trying to set up there, chances are you'll end up dead. Once again, remember, if you want to use that, you cannot have your back directly against the bar, or else only one will go through. You want to be drifting just slightly off the bar, and then both will get through. So that's a great shot, a very underrated burst, and so thanks to Flared for that one. So the 8th burst, another excellent burst, is going to be right through this hole here. This can be really good against tears trying to break cram or escape to the other side, but especially you want to use it against spiders. If nobody's watching under, this is a really effective burst. Zizu and Rage Ritual use this quite often. As you see there, Eek trying to slide through, and you can kill him there. This is better than the 5th burst just in terms of time. The 5th burst gets 2 bursts under, but it takes about 2 or 3 seconds for them to reach. This one gives you an immediate impact. So in a quick pinch, you'll want to use that. It's also worth noting that once you're more comfortable with the burst shots, really good terrs will not sit there and burst. They will actually do it on the fly from further away. So you can actually hit this shot from quite a ways away. So I'll just fire one here from a bit away. You can actually hit that from, so it's a lot less obvious, because when you're sitting against it, you're really making your intentions known, which is fine against a spider, but usually against a terr, it will not be as effective unless you're doing it from far away. You usually want to do it from about a little closer than that, so they don't have time to rep, but not so close as to that you're giving away your intentions. So the 9th burst is one where you're trying to get control of the flag, and if the terr or a spider or whoever is sitting there, you just come up and fire that, and it will bounce off the right side of the midbar, and that can be a very effective burst for clearing people out of from on top of the flag. You of course want to make sure that you want to do it between shark attaches if possible, so that it doesn't get repped. The 10th one, we've talked about verticality in other videos, and staying high is very important to controlling the flag room. So a lot of times really good spiders or terrs will sit up there, and so a good way to get rid of them is this burst here, which will actually fire 2 bursts into the upper and help clear out either a terr or a spider controlling the top of the flag room there. That can be a very effective burst and a good way to get rid of them in a pinch. So the 11th burst is once you've finally gotten control of the flag room, a lot of times the enemy terr will sit behind that bar either on my left side, so you're going to want to just clear them out with this burst, which is very effective, and will fire the second burst will come in and hit the under. So that's really good. Again, super important that you try to fire that burst between enemy shark attaches so that it doesn't get repped, or else it will not work. The 12th one here is again, a lot of times the enemy terr will be hiding in the ear if you're winning the flag room battle. So you're going to want to sit just to the left of the flag, and that will actually fire 2 bursts off into the right ear. So again, you want to be mindful of enemy shark attaching patterns and reps, and try to do that when there are no enemy sharks on the map. It should be noted that burst only works against enemies on the right side, not the left, because of the way that the base is structured. So you really only want to do that when they're on the right side. On the left, you might just want to save your burst for something else. 12th burst here is if you've gotten the enemy terr into the coffin on the right or the left side. You can use this burst to fire off into there and to attack the terr, and that's a very good shot as well. Generally good to have a port if you're new. You don't want to get caught there. So the final bursts I'll be showing are once you've got control of the flag room and you're trying to hold crams. So this is going to be the bread and butter of your bursting. Is just going to be setting up the front of your ship to the middle of that bar, and then you can spin around if you want to make it look not as obvious that you're about to burst, and that will fire 2 bursts out into the entrance, and with minimal exposure. You're not in the cram, so that's definitely a very powerful shot. Again, you want to be mindful of enemy sharks if they're high. At least you want to make sure that they're not high and they're not repping, or else those bursts will not get through. So you want to be very mindful of that. That's a great way to tech. So yeah, so definitely you can also set up their Rage Ritual, and a few other terrs don't set up in the middle. They set up actually just to the right, and it fires off 2 down as well. So either or of those setups. And then finally, another way to fire bursts through, especially if you don't have time to set up, is to just run through here, and you can either get 2 or sometimes all 3 of your bursts to go down, which can be very effective in a pinch, especially if you have a port. And you can run through there when cram is about to be overrun by the enemy, and then you burst and then you port out before you die, and that can be a very effective way of trying to salvage a broken cram. Yeah, so those are some essential bursts that you should know. It's important to note that a lot of higher level terrs don't use set bursts, just because when you're playing against other good players, they're generally tend to be familiar with all the burst patterns, so they can dodge them all quite easily. So they'd like to have kind of just a random, just burst in random areas. That number 5 burst, which is probably the most useful burst in the game, Mike's likes to, like when he's spidering under, he actually likes to attach just before the burst hits him, so he doesn't die, and it removes the burst from the screen. Also, Acid Bomber and a few other really good unders, they'll just simply duck under and avoid that. So should be mindful of that, although even when you do know, a lot of times you don't have the energy to reattach, or you're getting repped and you get repped into the burst anyways. So set shots are still effective, but you shouldn't be constrained by them. A lot of times you can simply, a lot of terrs will simply just are comfortable with the burst, so you can just simply like fly around and hit people in the desired locations, just knowing where your bursts are going to go. But if you're starting out, you definitely want to be familiar with those, and even if you're not tearing or you're not planning on using those bursts, it's important to know them, because other people will use them, and it will help you dodge them and avoid them and focus on other things, such as where to drop off your players, or to avoid shrap or enemy lines of spider fire. So it's even if you choose not to use those bursts, important to know them, and it'll make you better both as a terr to survive against them, and as a spider, as a shark, to avoid them or to be aware of them. So hopefully that's helpful to anyone starting out and trying to get into terr, which is probably the toughest ship to get started in, just because there's so much of a reliance on you. And so yeah, so hopefully that helps you guys out, and those are 15 essential bursts that every terr should know. So thanks for listening.